Wow.
Well, this is different. Again, get used to it, everyone, because we're here getting you people that have been on TV, and I'm thankful for it, and we'll talk to her shortly. But kia ora, queens, and welcome to The Cup, the Currently Unnamed Podcast, where we put the real and the tea in reality, and you can always come to us first to quench your thirst. I'm Logan Murphy, say something gay. Currently, I am drinking some coffee because I woke up a couple of hours ago. And it's cinnamon roll flavored, and it's very lovely.
Oh, wonderful.
But if I wasn't drinking it out of this wonderful mug that I am using, I could use our own cup mug. And you could get yours at lanagcreations.etsy.com. That link is down in the description below. And we do ship domestically within the United States and internationally, so there are no excuses. Unless there are some excuses, then there are some excuses because there are some excuses. Excuses.
Well, I'm David Healy, and I don't have a cute intro, but I do have a cute shirt. I decided this would be the perfect time to wear my Ashley Madison shirt. Yes.
Oh my god! I wonder why you wore that.
I don't know. Why did I wear that?
Huh?
I'm not even sure if everybody noticed I had this on. Until now.
Why?
But I'm just drinking some water right now.
Wonderful. Hola, I am Eduardo, the Mexican representative of this podcast. I am here to talk shit and get hit. I am also drinking water today because, Lord have mercy, I have not eaten anything, so I need to fill my stomach with something, right?
Wonderful. And who the hell are you?
Hi, I'm Ashley Madison. I am a previous Down Under contestant and Snatch Game winner. And so I am ready to judge these bitches as harshly as I felt that I was.
Ooh.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Yay.
Ashley, welcome to the Cup officially. So happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I watched every one of the episodes that you did of our season, and so I'm excited to join in.
Awesome.
Yes.
And we got to meet you in LA over the summer, which was really cool. Like, we really appreciated our chat there.
Yes.
Yeah, love that. I love LA. I also went to New York. I love New York. I just felt LA it's so big. I knew it was big because I believe it has a bigger, if not the same population as all of Australia. But
something
enormous.
Like that.
The Uber from one place to another is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Horrible. Horrible.
Yeah.
That's why I have friends in LA that I stay with when I go there. So I was taking the train in every day. So my commute was about an hour and a half, but I spent about a quarter of what I would have otherwise. And I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for this episode 3 of Down Under season 4. I'm going to go ahead and say this is one of my favorite episodes of Drag Race this year overall.
Yeah.
Like, this episode for me had every single thing I asked for in a Drag Race episode.
Yeah.
It was a great challenge, a great emotional arc, a phenomenal lip sync, and everything in between. And we'll talk about it. I'm so excited too. But before we dive in, make sure to subscribe if you've not already, because we're here almost all the time giving you almost all things drag. And make sure to check out the description below where you can find all of our audio podcast links, our other YouTube channels, and our Patreon for exclusive content and early access, including early access to most of the Look Over Here episodes for the franchises that we are currently covering. So before we dive into the episode, Ashley, we want to talk to you a little bit about you, because you're here, you're important. We want to know about you. Other than the big, obvious social media thing that has happened since your season, how has life as a Rue girl been?
Look, it has been amazing. I mean, I think a lot of people kind of expect that once you've been on Drag Race, you're going to have the whole world handed to you on like a silver platter, and you're going to get all of the opportunities in the world. And with Down Under, it doesn't really happen as much as it may for like the US girls. But so what I've learned with doing Drag Race in Australia is that you have to grab that opportunity by the balls, and you really have to take every opportunity that you can and make the most of it. And I really felt that I've been able to do that over the past 12 months and really make the most of it. Obviously, the social media thing has been amazing, and I'm pushing that. A couple months ago, I was on tour doing Snatch Game with Benji LaCreme and the Vivian, and so that was also absolutely amazing. So it's just been an incredible journey.
I was going to ask about that Snatch Game tour. How was that for you?
That was one of the best experiences of my life because, like, I feel like when it came to winning Down Under, like, I think my Snatch Game was good. I don't know if I was on a US season whether there would have been other people that would have been better than me, and I may not have won. But being given that opportunity to tour and do Snatch Game with legitimate drag legends was an absolute blessing. And like I really took that opportunity, and after every Snatch Game I would go to the Vivian and I would go to the Bendela Cram, I would go to Hannah Condra, and I'd be like, what can I do different next time? What can I learn? Because, you know, if you're being given this opportunity to be with this cast, why not take every opportunity to learn what you can? And we just had an absolute blast doing it. It was so much fun.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
I am curious with the new season starting, since this is your first time getting to watch as a Rue girl and see new people compete. Are there people that you know? I feel like there's a few people from Melbourne in this season. So are you familiar with this cast?
Yes, I'm very familiar with the cast. I helped Max prepare for the show. So there'll be some comments on Max's journey in this episode that I'll be able to give some insight on. Yeah, no, a lot of the girls I know very well. And like I think Lazy Susan's been doing drag maybe a little bit longer than me. I think we started right at the same time. Brenda is also a Melbourne girl. And so yeah, there's a couple of them that I know quite well, but Max is like, I've always Max is like my drag sister. I was there from like the start of her drag career. We worked in the same venues. And I helped edit her audition tape for this season. So like seeing her on and like helping her prepare, it was like amazing. And so I can't wait to see the rest of the journey for her as well.
Right. And I'm especially invested in the Melbourne Queens because I drafted all of them for our draft for the podcast.
Sure did.
And Vibe.
I didn't realize that until the season started, but I was like, oh, you have all of the Melbourne Queens.
Right.
And they're killing it. They're killing it.
And we'll talk about it. Hearing that you helped Max, it doesn't surprise me at all. The combination of your polish and Isis's polish together, and Max is so polished as is that I'm not surprised at all to hear that your hand was behind the scenes helping her, and I absolutely love that.
Yeah, there was so much fun. When she got the call, obviously we'll talk about it in the episode, but there was some recent events in her life that had transpired, and so there was a big question of whether it was the right move for her to do. But when you're given an opportunity like Drag Race, you're not going to say no, you know. And so yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
And also, how has it been watching Michelle as a host now? And are you jealous that she wasn't the host for you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, yes. I mean, to be fair, I'm glad, obviously, that I had RuPaul, because if you're going to be judged by anybody, you want it to be RuPaul. And Michelle was obviously there, so we had the benefit of meeting her and doing the show with her. But I feel like there's this added warmth that Michelle has been able to give that I don't think Rue. I think Rue gave in the early seasons of the US franchise. Where she was a little bit more kind of real and genuine and you know, knocked down a level. And I think that Michelle is doing a really good job of kind of not being RuPaul, she's being Michelle, but she's kind of taken the reins really well. She feels like the host, and I was worried that she was going to feel like you know, like a judge that had become a host, but she feels like a natural.
Right. Agree.
Yeah.
That's Eduardo, you were going to say anything?
No, nothing. I just said yes.
Okay.
I only agree.
Okay. I was going to say, because we've been talking about that every episode so far, is that it feels warmer, it feels lighter. And that's no disrespect to RuPaul, but obviously he does thousands of things a year. Unfortunately, Down Under seemed like one of the things he was doing. And that was one of the critiques I had on season 3, especially, is it just felt like, okay, Ru, time to give up something. And and Ivana said the same thing, is that watching it, there's this added warmth. And I think Michelle, I completely agree with you. Michelle has brought a motherly energy that I think Down Under has been needing and just hasn't had, unfortunately.
Yeah, because I mean, what people don't realize, I guess, I mean, you might assume, but we don't see RuPaul other than the times that the cameras are on.
Yeah.
And I remember in episode 1, we were all ready to we were all in drag for some reason. Maybe it was like maybe it was the runway or something. And obviously the studio that we filmed down under it is quite small, notoriously very, very small.
Yes.
And so there's only so many ways in or out of that studio. And so they actually, there was like a tiny hallway with a tiny little kitchenette in it. And they had all 10 of us girls, and there was like rolls of carpet on the floor, all 10 of us girls shoved into this hallway away from what we found out later was RuPaul, so that we wouldn't see RuPaul other than the times that she was on the screen. So we've been shoved into this hallway, standing on these rolls of carpet with next to this little kitchenette, so we didn't see RuPaul off camera. And so it's moments like that where I'm glad that Michelle is warmer, because like she does feel like, and I have heard from the girls that she will like have a chat to you kind of off camera or while the cameras are cut, and like be warmer and be motherly, whereas, you know, Rue was there to do a job. There were times where Rue would say things, especially in critiques, that you could tell we're not going to make the edit, but she was just giving advice as a drag queen to give you advice, and I appreciated those things, but she was definitely there, like, doing a job.
Yeah. And it's always felt to me like Michelle has been a bit more invested in, honestly, both UK and Down Under as a judge. It feels like, and especially with the UK, I mean, she lives there part-time. She's so engrossed into British culture that she's basically an expat at this point. And even with Down Under, like, it feels like she understands Australasian drag sensibility more than RuPaul ever did. And I think that's also on show in this season as well.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad that Michelle's hosting Snatch Game, because one of the struggles that I had when planning characters for Snatch Game was being bound to the ones that I knew RuPaul was going to understand. And with Michelle, you at least know that she goes through the effort to kind of understand Australian culture. And so there are, like, as we saw in this episode, there are like the Kath and Kim isms that Michelle understood that RuPaul just wouldn't have understood. And like the Australian people watching and like these things are funny, but RuPaul wouldn't have found them funny, wouldn't have laughed, and then the edit would have made it look even worse, you know? So I'm glad that Michelle's there. She understands Down Under drag. I think she appreciates it. And so it really works.
Absolutely. And trivial fun question before we dive into the episode. What's your favorite poster that you've redesigned so far?
Ooh.
Or a selection of favorites. It doesn't have to be one necessarily.
Well, there was one that, so I originally read, so there was a promo for the Wicked movie, which I'm very excited to say.
Be careful editing those.
I know. I went to the Melbourne, the Melbourne premiere of Wicked is tonight that I'm going to, so I'm very excited to see that movie today. But I redesigned, they had like a promo poster. It wasn't the official poster, but there was a promo poster before the real poster came out. And I redesigned that poster, and I was like, I want to see what the Wicked movie would look like as a Marvel poster. So I did that, and everybody absolutely hated it. So then the same day, I quickly filmed another video where I gave 2 more design versions of what the Wicked poster could be. One was a very simplified version, and one was where I had taken the billboard from some convention that they'd done. They like had released a Wicked like billboard, and I took elements of the billboard and put them together to make it look like what I assumed the poster was going to look like. And I posted that, and I said, this is using the assets that they've had, and this is what it would look like. And then they released the movie poster, and everyone flooded to my video to say that the Wicked movie had copied my design. And that video ended up getting over 1 million views.
Wow.
Everyone having a go at the Wicked movie for stealing my design, when in reality, I'd taken pieces from their billboard and turned it into what I assumed the poster was going to look like. So that was one of the ones where I quickly realized that these videos, when done correctly, could get a lot of views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say personally, I have gone on binges where I've been late night in bed just scrolling through all of your videos. If y'all haven't, I highly suggest go follow Ashley first and foremost. Get her merch, do all her things, support her everywhere. But the videos are just phenomenal, and as someone that watched your season, and I know that, and I'm pretty sure I can speak for all of us, knowing that Down Under doesn't get as much traction as other franchises, to see you blossom on social media and get so much social media attention has just been so wonderful to see as a fan of yours.
Thank you.
So I'm so happy to see it for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I really wanted to like. I mean, if you had told me that I was one day going to combine my drag skills with my graphic design skills, and it was going to do something, I would have thought you're lying. But it's been really brilliant, and I like the good thing about it is that I have a lot of fun doing it, and I have a lot of fun only doing drag from the waist up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
as a full-time podcaster, I get it.
Yeah.
Yes. Fully.
Yeah. We had talked a little about this off air with Ivana last week, but like it's especially good seeing your journey and you being embraced by the fans, because you actually kind of had a rough start before the season even started last year. It felt like the fans were just looking for their pound of flesh. Who can we get a good hate in? And unfortunately, you just randomly were the victim. So how was it dealing with that?
Look, that was rough, but I have a very good support network around me, and I kind of took the advice. I think in season 1 of Down Under, Art Simone was talking to Raven and RuPaul in a walkthrough, and Art asked what advice she had, and Raven said, "Don't read the comments," which is something that we hear all of the time.
Yeah.
But when you get on Drag Race and you get that kind of little bit of celebrity or a little bit of fame or whatever, it can be very difficult to not want to read every single thing that everyone has to say about you.
Absolutely.
But
Right.
I drew a line in the sand and was like, I am not reading these things. I deleted Reddit off my phone because that can be a cesspit sometimes. Same thing with Twitter. And even watching some other, I shouldn't name names, but some other Down Under girls reviewing our season were quite rough. And so I chose not to watch that content. I did have my very, very good sister, Beverly Kills from season 2, would watch it for me and tell me if it was worth the watch or whether I should just let go. And I think there was one time, there was like a 10-second period that she said that something nice had been said. So I watched that 10-second period and then didn't watch any more of it. So yeah, look, it was, my journey wasn't lovely. But the interesting thing after Drag Race and you know, doing this thing on social media is that I've realized a lot of people haven't even realized that I have ever been on Drag Race. There was someone who came up to me at DragCon in LA and said, "It's amazing that you're one of the only people that have been able to make a name for themselves without Drag Race." And I was like, oh, that's funny then.
Well,
funny enough,
I have some news for you.
Yeah.
Not only was I on Drag Race, I did decently well and won Snatch Game. So here's the thing. Yeah. But speaking of, let's dive into the episode. We come back in and Olivia is gone. And I'm still really sad about it because I really, really enjoyed her.
Yeah. I'm still depressed. I'm
still depressed. I think every elimination this season is going to be really tough because this cast, and I would say almost all of the Down Under casts, everyone is just so lovable. And so, like, personalities shine through, even for the girls that are early outs. And so I think every elimination is going to be a little rough. But the workroom conversation is living, laughing, and loving. And I was still doing neither of them, or none of the above options. And Susan is worried about this big target on her back now that she has 2 challenge wins in a row, and then literally disappears for the rest of this episode.
Yes,
it's true.
Just gone. Goodbye.
The stark contrast in edit, and those are the things that I notice having watched Drag Race as much, is like, okay, cool, we see Susan throughout the first chunk of the episode, and then I don't think we get a single confessional from her the rest of the episode.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And I like Susan. I'm really, really liking Susan, but it was kind of refreshing to have other people get more airtime. I'm not gonna lie. And just having a bit more of a diverse confessional count and things like that. But what have you thought of the first 2 episodes so far, Ashley?
I've absolutely loved them. And similarly with the feelings towards Olivia, I even sent her a message and I was like, I think she is adorable. You know, like she's obviously someone that is reasonably new to drag in some capacity. But like she had that like underdog energy where there are some queens that get on Drag Race and are new to drag but feel as though they are the bee's knees and are just like, you know, and have big egos. But I think that Olivia, it was just really heartwarming seeing her on the show, and she just had like a lot of fun while she was there, even though it may have been a little bit rough around the edges. But I have adored episode 1 and episode 2. I've also adored these challenges so far, and I almost wish that I was on this season instead of the last season, because I feel like these challenges have been like somewhat like comedy based and like fun in that capacity, whereas I think ours was a lot more like dance challengey, BMX spikes and things. So I think I might have done better season 4 than season 3.
Probably.
I can see it.
Y'all, I have so much respect and adoration for y'all going through that BMX girl group challenge.
Lord,
you know, the worst part about the BMX spikes was that there was a section that they cut from airing during the thing where they had me pick up the bike, lift it over my head, and place it at the back of the stage. Because it was meant to be like this like car crash thing, and so this was like I was meant to do like this slow-mo. Holding this BMX bike above my head and placing it on the ground. And I was like, I'm going to look like the stupidest idiot. And then they aired it and they cut this whole section.
Great.
Well,
lovely.
at least it didn't look like Boo Boo the Fool on that part of the episode.
True. But yes, we come into the workroom the next day. The girls are here. Everyone's talking about whether Susan is going to get a 3rd win in a row. Spoiler.
No.
But we get Michelle coming in a lovely pussy bow and light wash denim jeans.
She looked amazing.
Her budget alone on this season is incredible.
Yeah.
She looks incredible all of the time. And I'm like, Michelle in jeans, what a concept.
Yeah, who would have thought? Who would have
thought? But we find out that the Maxi Challenge is Snatch Game with a twist. I'm a celebrity impersonator. Snatch me out of here. I've been waiting for them to do an I'm a Celebrity Snatch Game crossover. I think it is incredibly logical to do it. And I think overall, we'll talk about the Snatch Game, of course. I think it was a great adaptation and maybe the best Snatch Game adaptation we've ever seen.
Yeah, maybe.
It's my favorite, at least, because I don't love any of the other ones, I'll be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. It's kind of tough at this point to really reinvent Snatch Game because, like, you know, it's been done so many times in every single season, and we've tried so many things that haven't worked. And so this kind of makes sense. Like, I was never really thinking that like I'm a Celebrity would be like a replacement for Snatch Game, but you know what, it works great, and like the mentality behind it is a really smart one, so you know it was a good idea.
I mean, I'm gonna say that I disagree, actually. I think that I love the idea of including I'm a Celebrity. I think that fits really well, but I think all they did was change the set, because other than mentioning that the girls were in the Outback, there didn't seem to be any other correlation to I'm a Celebrity. And I think something that, like, an idea that I would have had would have been to like have the queens like answer trivia questions or something in the celebrity characters, and if they get it wrong, they've got to eat bull testicles or whatever. You know, one of those like like I'm a Celebrity things where the girls are now faced with doing something that they don't want to do. That they've got to keep like the celebrity impersonation going. Like I was hoping there was going to be more of like a combination of like actual I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here.
Yeah, I will agree with you there. Like, I think it could have been pushed more, but the idea is there and the idea can be worked on.
Yeah. I do wish there was a way that they could have had all of the girls there at once, because I'll get into it, but I can't remember a time where I felt like, whoa, that was so quick. Like it felt so
It was-
rushed. It's like
It
group
felt
one
very, very
quickly,
rushed.
group two quickly. So
I mean, that's kind of the downside of having Down Under episodes being less than an hour, is you kind of, and with how much material they had to go through in this episode and how much storyline and how much, you know, setup that they had to do with the queens, it did unfortunately make the Snatch Game a little bit shorter, and I do wish it was longer, because I think everyone got 2 questions.
Yeah.
Which is not great, but I agree. I wish there had been more of an I'm a celebrity element. Like I think the nasty eating challenge is part of it. Having the girls still stay in their impersonations, I think would have been really fun to see with that. If you had been tasked with this, Ashley, would you have changed your character, or would you have just same character, full send, let's see how we do?
No, I definitely would have stayed the same. I don't think that the celebrity outback thing would have changed much for me. I know that a lot of girls. I was at a viewing party that Max was at the other day, and Max said that she specifically referenced a lot of things to do with the outback when she was answering questions and things, and they cut all of her references to the outback. I think the only real reference we had from the girls talking about the outback, I think, was Vibe at the start. She made a reference to being in the outback. But no, I don't think I would have changed my character whatsoever. But maybe I would have like added in some outbacky elements, because the thing is, you never know what the judges are going to critique on, and the judges might say, "Hey, you had this opportunity to reference the outback and reference, you know, these things, and you didn't take that opportunity." So maybe I would have made some changes. I don't know.
you wouldn't have changed your character to Mrs. Claus?
Lord have
No,
mercy.
I mean,
because I'm doing Mrs. Claus.
I'm doing Mrs. Claus.
Yeah, I think Mrs. Claus was a brilliant idea. I'm loving that with Snatch Game. The issue is that there are not many celebrities that have not been done. So now the girls are moving into characters and moving into like concepts like Mother Nature, similar to what I did. And I think it's fun. I'm loving that some of them still work with celebrity impersonations, even though I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I didn't get a lot of Lindsay Lohan from that Lindsay Lohan, but you know.
We will talk at length about Lazy Susan in this episode.
It's funny though. I was listening to a podcast from Sibling Rivalry from a few years ago, and Bob and Monet brought up, "Oh, it'd be interesting if somebody ever played Jesus in Snatch Game." And one of them was like, "No, I don't think that would work. I don't think." I'm like, "Just wait, it will happen."
Well, we've seen it. We've seen it what, 3 times now?
3 within a year, and
3 within a year.
Ashley started it.
Yep. Amy didn't do that bad. I did not mind Amy on Chanel. And then who was the third? I'm not remembering.
I know Eva Blunt did Jesus, so
yes.
Oh, Eva Blunt did. Yeah, that's who it was.
And that was not great.
And Ashley's was the best of the 3.
Thank you.
By far.
But it was gay Jesus.
Yeah.
It was yes. But yeah, so we get workroom conversations and Michelle's walkthroughs as well. We find out that both Brenda and Mandy are doing characters from Kath and Kim, which I love as a very recent Kath and Kim fan. I got turned on to Kath and Kim actually because of Novimpia on YouTube, because they just referenced Kath and Kim so much that I was like, okay, I think I just need to go watch Kath and Kim finally and figure out what it's all about, and I'm obsessed. So to find out that we're not only getting 1 character but 2 was incredible. And then obviously the back and forth between Freya and Max, both wanting to do versions of Mrs. Claus. Freya with a bit more of a higher concept version, and Max kind of just going a little bit more with the aesthetic of it. Ashley, I don't know what her preparation necessarily was. And I don't know if you have any. I'm going to assume you have insight based on the fact that you are a Snatch Game winner and helped her prepare.
If you're comfortable talking about it.
If you're comfortable talking about it, of course. Was there any kind of preparation with that you helped with?
So I offered help. So like maybe this is when I prepared for Snatch Game, I wrote jokes. So I wrote jokes before I came for Snatch Game, and I was like, okay, these are things that I'm going to try and pull in. So I walked in knowing, okay, I've got these jokes, Now I just need to find a way to work them in to the questions that I'm being asked. And that was advice that I gave to Max when they were thinking about characters to do for Snatch Game. I was like, write jokes. Because when the lights are on you and the camera's looking at you, and I mean, at that stage, we weren't sure whether RuPaul was hosting or not. There was rumors that she wasn't when they were in preparation. So I was like, when RuPaul's looking at you, like, your mind goes blank, and, you know, we're not all comedians. We're not all professional comedians. So trying to prepare as much as possible is advisable so that you can walk in with those jokes. I don't know how much preparation Max did, but I know that she had other characters. One of which she prepared was Weeks by Vanity. Vanity, I don't know if you know Vanity, which would have been hilarious, but the producers wouldn't allow her to do that. So, you know,
unfortunate.
Yeah, that's a shame. But I thought what was really interesting is we had Michelle come in and do her chats with everybody, and it really felt like she was stirring the pot with the Miss Claus of it all, because Freya had already resigned herself to being, oh, I can do Erica Jane. But then when she told Michelle that, Michelle's like, wait, are you sure that you want to just play it safe? You could do this character. It seems more fun for you to do Miss Claus. And then when she talks to Max is like, well, if she's going to do Miss Claus, then I'm going to do Reese, which at first I was like, Reese Nichols? I didn't know. I didn't know which Reese. But and Michelle's like, but are you sure you want to do that? It doesn't seem like Reese could be as much fun. So I was like Team Michelle here, because I always like the idea of seeing two competing characters on a Snatch Game. So I was really hopeful that they would both take her advice and go for it.
Yeah, I agree. I also was hoping that they would both do it, because I also think that they could have worked off of each other really well, especially with the fact that Freya was going with, oh, I just divorced like Santa Claus. So therefore there can be a dynamic there of, oh, I'm the divorced wife, she's the new sugar baby or something. I don't know. And there can be this dynamic of like, I am the ex-girlfriend, we can be fighting or something. Like there's something there
right next to each other.
Yeah, and so there's something there that can be really fun and really interesting. And I think just Max got really into her head, and like with all of the stuff that was going on as well, I don't blame her for like getting in her head. But like I think there was so much going on in her mind that she was just like, I cannot be like doing all this. I need to do something else.
Yeah,
I get it.
There's a moment that they I'm probably breaking an NDA doing this, but there was a moment that they didn't air on the runway, which was Michelle asking Max why she didn't do Mrs. Claus, and the Max mentioned, and this kind of gives context as to why I think Max took any opportunity she could not to do Mrs. Claus, was that Max's mum passed away on Christmas Eve. So that kind of added some extra context. I mean, I think Max was going to do it because it's a character that, you know, it's similar to Jesus in that everybody knows like the reference. There's 1,000 ways that you can reference Christmas, but I can see why Max would have taken every opportunity to take a step back and be like, oh, let me do anything else.
Yeah,
that makes complete sense. Yeah, having that context, that makes complete sense. But yeah, we dive into the Snatch Game. Do we want to talk about the Snatch Game after we talk about the workroom stuff? Because I think that might flow a little bit better for the conversation, because we get they do the Snatch Game. We'll talk about it here in a bit. We come into the workroom the next day. Everyone's preparing, and this is where we got a little bit of foreshadowing from Freya in confessionals before the Snatch Game, talking about, you know, something being off with Max. She just wasn't herself. She's in her head. And then we see Max have a full breakdown. And we do find out about her mom's passing, it being the 2-month anniversary of it. I started crying for her because I don't know what it's like to lose a parent physically, but I know what it's like to lose a parent emotionally. And that's all I'll say on the pod in order to not start crying again. So in a lot of ways, there's a level of sympathy that I had as a viewer, just being like, I know what that loss to an extent feels like, and it's not great. And it being so recent, I will say I am beyond thrilled that Max did decide to be on this season, because she is one of my favorite people on this season by far. I'm finding her so entertaining, so energetic, so relatable in a lot of ways. And we're not that far apart in age, her and I. So I feel like a lot of what she's dealing with right now is a lot of what I've been dealing with for the last couple of years. So there's just this understanding that I have of her and her mentality and things like that. So I will say I'm very, very happy that she is on this season regardless, but I felt for her in this moment.
Yeah, I did too. Especially she's talking to Vibe about it. You can tell already it's hard for her to even talk about it. But then there's a point where Vibe's trying to comfort her. And this is one of the most real moments I've seen on Drag Race ever, is when she just cannot take it and she runs out of the room sobbing. And it was so hard to watch. Like, I'm sure it was hard for you to watch too, Ashley, being a friend of yours. But yeah, like my heart just really went out for her, because I'm like, this is so real. This hurts watching this.
Yeah, there's a lot of like compounding elements when you get on Drag Race, and there's like so many things going through your head at one time, because like even people that didn't go through the loss of a parent prior to Drag Race, you know, you're thinking about the way that you're being perceived in the world, and the expectations of the people that know you on getting on the show. Like, there are all these elements that you think about heading in, and to have like the loss of a parent so close to that, because Max lost her mum during the audition process. You know, it wasn't like it was something that happened prior, you know, because, you know, around that time. So there is that struggle of what's going through your head. And then obviously, you know, not doing brilliantly in Snatch Game, and then, you know, being safe the 2 episodes before, plus your mum passing, like the compounding elements that, you know, I mean, I think anybody would go through a breakdown. So that was really tough to watch. I went to the viewing party to be there for Max airing that episode, because Max said this was the hardest episode that she had to film. So it was tough, but I think that Vibe has been amazing, and Vibe even said to Max whilst filming, she goes, I don't know where you'll be in the world the time that this airs, but I will be there with you when this episode airs. And so Vibe's from Sydney and came to Melbourne to be with Max to watch that episode. And I think like I've fallen in love with Vibe and her energy, and she kind of gives me that Spanky Jackson motherly vibe that we had in season 2, and I am adoring her.
Same.
Yeah. She reminds me a lot also, and I've talked about it, of her drag sister Coco Jumbo. Her and Coco, like it's that same warmth, that same humor, that same like beautiful energy. Spanky is another great comparison as well. Just feels very like her and Mandy. I feel like kind of the grounded kind of centers of this season, and everyone else is, you know, and people are coming to her. And then you add in the added warmth of Michelle and her motherly energy. Like, this season just feels so different for a lot of different ways, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. And I will be honest, watching all of this, I felt very like I was like, I really think Max is gonna pull out of the competition. Like, it really felt that way watching it.
I agree.
Yeah. And we did get some resolution on this. She talked about it, and she's like, I'm gonna stay, and I want to do this not because I want to make my mom proud, but I know my mom would want me to make myself proud. And I thought that was really good to hear.
Yeah.
And Michelle asking that on the runway too, like, that is just another level of, I don't, again, no disrespect to RuPaul, but I don't think Ru would have asked that. I don't think Ru would have had the forethought to ask that. And yeah, it was hard to watch. I agree with you, David, but it was, it was hard to watch.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Did I
also say though, I think it's refreshing to see a legitimate emotional moment, because we don't get a lot of those on Drag Race, other than when like the girls are being eliminated or something like that, and they're tearing up, because a lot of the obviously we all know that producers tell people to ask questions to bring up conversations. And I remember Max, when we were preparing, Max was like, I'm not telling the producers that my mum has passed because I don't want them to I don't want it to be ungenuine if it comes up whilst filming. Because the last thing you want in that moment is for a producer to turn to Mandy and say, hey, does anyone want to ask about our mothers? And then it feels staged. But seeing like a genuine, real moment kind of, again, brings that like warmth from the episode, and you feel like this was a genuine thing that happened, and Vibe was actually there to comfort her.
I've said it a few times so far watching this season, but this season for me really feels like old school US Drag Race. And this is maybe the realest Drag Race season I think I've watched in a while, where everything just feels like there is a level of production to it. Obviously, it's a reality show. There's going to be. But with Max having this moment and, a lot of what we've seen so far, and Michelle having these kind of one-off comments, talking to the girls, and, last week when she was like, y'all are easy, I am too. Like, it's those things that it's like, oh, it feels like everyone is there to have fun and also make good TV. And they all know what they're here to do, but they're all going to portray themselves in the realest way possible. And that I really appreciate about this season. And I would agree. I think as Darby Lynn Cartwright and Alexis Bevel say on IMHO, completely on your own without being prompted by a producer, obviously, it was one of those moments where I was like, it felt very real. It felt very genuine. It felt very, it was a real moment. And I'm glad that Max had that forethought. In the midst of all of this going on. But David, as the resident note taker, did I miss anything from the workroom?
Not really. I think, that was all they had after the Snatch Game. So
cool. Well, then in that case, shall we go to the runway?
Sure.
Wait, I do want to. Oops.
Oh, I paused it. Go ahead, David.
Talk about what we're considering doing. I wish we had seen Lazy Susan do this horse.
Oh my god!
Yeah, that would have been so stupid.
Or honestly, Werner Herzog. I think that would have been. I think that would have been one of the best Snatch Game performances of all time. And Michelle going, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
Yeah.
Because I asked myself the same thing. I was like, she really is an enigma, isn't she? Like,
she's wild.
Susan is just wild.
They should have just had her on both panels and doing one character with one and one on the other.
I would love that. I feel like if Snatching was longer, I feel like Susan is the kind of person to switch characters in its Snatch Game.
Oh yeah.
And I think we might have seen it. But
if only.
Okay, now we'll go to the runway. Boom. And I will say, I think Michelle has looked great on the runway the last two episodes. This is more of what I was expecting of host Michelle Visage looks. And I am absolutely obsessed with this animal print bodysuit. Is this the best Michelle has ever looked?
Maybe. It's up there.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And our guest judge, Lady Hawk, no clue who she was, but found her absolutely delightful.
Has she been on before?
No, she's not.
She hasn't? Okay, her name just seemed really familiar.
You were thinking of Lady Bird.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But yes, Keto looks great too. I like the monochromatic look.
Yes.
And fun fact, these earrings that Kita's wearing, I made, and they happen to be the exact same ones that she wore into the workroom, her first her season.
Okay.
Oh, wow. How fun. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And Reese looks great in a brown suit. I got to be honest.
Absolutely.
David, you've been on to something. This was the first episode where I was like, oh, Reese is actually really attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm coming around. I see it. I'm there.
I've always seen it. And Jinx Monsoon definitely sees it. She talks about it a lot.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Oh, wow. That doesn't surprise me at all. That doesn't surprise me at all. But, and then talking and moving to Snatch Game, I love, like we talked about, and like you mentioned earlier, Ashley, I love having Michelle host it, and then our two contestants being both Reese and Kita, I think really added to the Snatch Game overall. But we've got our characters, both sessions here on screen, and we'll talk about all of them individually. We have Lazy Susan as Lindsay Lohan as Danny DeVito. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. Vibe as Julia Child, not to be confused with Julia Childs. Karna as
Eddie
maybe
Murphy.
some version of Eddie Murphy. We'll talk about it. Max as Reese Witherspoon. Freya as Miss Claus. We have Brenda as Gina Riley for copyright's sake. We have Nikita as Mother Nature. Mandy as Jane Turner for copyright reasons. And Lucina as Tabitha Coffee. So, David, as always, you want to start us off with Lazy Susan?
Sure. So yes, Lazy Susan was Lindsay Lohan. I think she made a lot of choices as Lindsay Lohan. I honestly think that she was too intellectual about the whole thing. Like, I think she went for very deep cut references that the average audience member is not going to get. She looks like Lindsay Lohan, but a lot of the things that she was saying and doing in the Irish accent, which seemed out of nowhere. My best guess for why she did that is because I know Lindsay Lohan had a Netflix movie called Irish Wish that came out around this time. Other than that, I'm not sure why the Irish accent. But yeah, I thought she was funny, but I think her jokes could have landed a little bit better if her characterization wasn't as confusing. I didn't think she was bad. I actually think for the most part, I would say at least like 8 of these people did well to some degree.
Yes.
But for me, she was actually in the middle, and I was not expecting that. I thought she would be one of the best, but for me, I ranked her number 5.
Yeah, I feel weird because I got every single reference that she was throwing out there. Like, I got all of the Disney like references that she was throwing out there, and like the 16 Candles reference as well. And I thought she was going for smoker. I thought she was going for like, oh, I've smoked so much that like my throat is so sore and whatever. I thought that's what she was going for, which makes sense with Lindsay. You know, she's a heavy smoker. So I thought that's what we were going for. And I was like, okay, this is funny-ish. Like, I thought there were like I think she was taking big swings, and some of them just weren't landing the way that they were supposed to. And so some of them like kind of just didn't hit the way that they should have. And so I agree with you, David. She was my number 5. She was just almost there.
I think that I struggled. It's every time that another season of Drag Race has come out that Lazy Susan has not gotten on, she tends to post what her Snatch Game audition characters were. And so there was this very high expectation that Lazy Susan was going to come out of the bag and do something wild. And this is why I also think that Far Lap would have been a really great choice. Because with this, I just didn't get... It's almost like she over-prepared for Snatch Game in that she thought of all of these things that she should bring in, and it lost the like Lindsay having fun playing around in Snatch Game vibe, and it just became like, oh, to be completely honest, I don't know how funny it would have been without the voice. Even though I don't think the voice really fit, I think that shocking element made it interesting. But it just like wasn't Lindsay to me.
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing, Ashley. Having 3 characters, I love that she prepared, but it did feel over prepared. And knowing that Lindsay, I think, was her 3rd option, I was really confused why she ended up going with Lindsay. Because I think Farlap actually probably would have been the most applicable for this version of Snatch Game that they were going for. I think there's a lot that you could go with a horse character. Like there's a lot of different angles to go with. For me, I appreciate Susan doing something different, taking a risk, and swinging big. This for me did not work. It just didn't. I get the angle, and she was funny. For me, I actually have Lazy Susan at number 7 in my ranking. Because while I understand that the jokes were made and they were good written jokes, the character and the characterization just didn't work for me, unfortunately.
Well, next up we had Vibe as Julia Child, and honestly, I did think it was Julia Childs. So when she asked that question, I'm like, wait, which one is it?
Julia Child.
Yeah, I thought she killed it. She had a very clear character. She leaned into the humor at every given opportunity. She had jokes that really landed for me. I think my favorite one was when she was talking about like putting the baby in the oven and that you need to put the pilot light out. She said, blow out the pilot light and save the baby. That was probably the highlight of this whole first group for me, is that joke. She did really well. I watched this first group and I'm like, I think this is her time. I think she's going to get her win. But for me, overall, once I saw everybody, she ended up being number 2.
Fair. Yeah, for me, like this, I just love Julia Child and like all of the references that can be made. It's a character that you can really play with. There's a lot of like manic energy that she has, and a lot that you can play with, like with biting butter or something like that. I think just she really took it there, and she knew all of the references, and she knew what to do, and she was just. I feel like Vibe is already really funny, and she likes to interject into like conversations every so often, and I think doing that in the Snatch Game also really helped her. Like when other people were answering, she was also like doing something funny as well, and I think that's really what brought it to me, like what really like stepped it up. Like it was funny already, but the fact that she was like bantering with other people or like going off of other people made it even funnier. And that's why for me, overall, she was my number 1. I thought that she should have won.
Yeah, I absolutely adore this. It kind of gives me, like, obviously seeing Vibe on the show, the energy of Vibe came through with Julia, and it's fascinating watching somebody have so much fun. When we were at the viewing party, obviously Vibe was there, and Max mentioned, she was saying to the audience, like, this goes forever. Like this went for so long. And Vibe was like, really, it felt like me, like we were in and out. Because I think when you are having fun, obviously it feels like it goes quicker. And you could tell that she was having fun with the character. She had references that weren't too niche, that like it was just like, just like your odd cooking things, and like being able to bring those things in, like that skill set that she has, and just like that kind of comedic genius was amazing. I loved it.
I couldn't agree more. I grew up watching Julia Child, so finally getting a redemption for Julia Child on Snatch Game is very, very heartwarming for me. And seeing Vibe do it, someone that I'm also loving on this season, was even better. She had the mannerisms down. She had her physical comedy was incredible. Just the subtle head shaking and the little bit of neuroses that always came through with Julia Child on her TV show. You can tell where I think Susan, not to throw more shots at Susan, but where Susan, I think, over prepared a lot of different things, I think Vibe prepared just enough and also was in the moment enough to make this character stand out and be the best character of the first session of this Snatch Game. The pilot light joke was incredible. jumping in with the butter comments, like everything was just so on point for Julia. My top 3 is very, very close, and on any given day, I think I could rank any of my top 3 number 1. For me, Vibe was number 2 overall.
Next up, we had Carnivore as Eddie Murphy, really as Rasputia from what is it called? Norbit. Yeah. So I really like Carnivore. Really like Carna. But Carna. This was kind of rough. For me, I got the vibe. Like, this reminds, she talked about how she used to always quote Rasputia. Like, it's just been a thing in their household, quoting this character. And I was like, okay, I can kind of think about that. Like, with my sister and I, we would always quote, like, especially like Ace Ventura, like Jim Carrey characters growing up. And like, we really would like enjoy that and laugh about it with each other. But just because we're having fun as family members laughing at a character that we do doesn't mean it's going to translate to Snatch Game. And I think that's where she messed up here. I think she was like, oh yeah, I've always had fun playing around, but it really did not translate here. It really did lean a lot on the same thing that, how you doing? It was just a lot of that. And Eddie Murphy is somebody who like is drag adjacent. Like, he's done so many different characters. There's lots of places you could have even done Hercules, because he's done other characters similar. So I felt like she was a little bit limited in her scope of this character and it working with a very specific audience, her family, but not working on the Snatch Game. And that's why, unfortunately, I had her ranked number 9.
Yeah, I mean, this feels like a very similar situation that we had with Trixie doing RuPaul.
I literally thought the same fucking thing.
Right? It's just like, it works in a bubble. And when you're in a very specific situation and with a very specific group of people, but once you take it out of that bubble and you put it in Snatch Game, sometimes it can really fall flat. And unfortunately for Karna, it really did. I feel like she only really had one joke, which was the "how you doing?" and like, that's about it. There was not a lot of characterization there, and there was a lot for her to play with, and she just didn't play with any of it, unfortunately. Like, I felt like she was trying so hard to do something with it, but like, she was just playing with one block when she had 20. So unfortunately, Karna was my number 9 as well. She was my least favorite.
Yeah, look, I struggled watching kind of do this. It's one of those things. When Bev was preparing for season 2, she wanted to bring Rebel Wilson, and I said my issue with Rebel Wilson is, yes, Rebel Wilson's funny, and the characters that she does are funny, but can you do enough with it to make it funny in its own right? Like, is there enough content for you to play with to make this? And I think that like, people will sometimes fall into that trap when they pick a comedian in just doing what that comedian already does and just saying lines that were funny and repeating something that is funny in their reference just doesn't land a lot of the time. I do think we'll talk about it when it's their turn, but I think that the Kath and Kim characters did a good job of using references from Kath and Kim, but doing their own thing. Whereas I think kind of just fell into the trap of like, this is what I know, these are the references that I know, I'm going to repeat these and hope that they're funny, and it just didn't land.
Yeah, I love Karna dearly. I have fallen in love with Karna as well in this season. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. She was my number 9. She was my least favorite for all of the same reasons you all brought up. So, but I love her dearly, and I wish she would have done better. I wish this would have been her moment to shine, because she is funny. That's the thing, is she is really funny and very naturally funny. I don't know that character comedy is necessarily where she shines.
Well, next we had Max as Reese Witherspoon, really as Elwoods. Now I don't know whether last names have S's on there.
There is an S on Elwoods. As a legally blonde super fan, there is. Yeah.
Yeah. I think she did all right with this character. Like, she had jokes, she was leaning into that character. And I think this is one where it is a good idea to just kind of lean into one specific character for Reese Witherspoon, because when I think about her, I don't automatically think of her as having a really distinct character that you could present in Snatch Game. So this was the best route to go. This is my one complaint about Michelle. I felt like Michelle was kind of shutting her down. Like, she would give an answer and then Michelle would be like, "Oh, because you're a lawyer." And it's like, okay, you didn't need to over explain it, Michelle. Like, that was kind of making things a little bit more awkward for Max here. But otherwise, I thought she did fine. My problem is, like, most people did well, so I still did have her at number 8. But like I said, I think 8 people did well to some degree.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think doing Elle Woods is a good choice. There's it gives you a lot to play with. Is he gay or European? I wish there was a reference to that.
It probably was.
There probably was, and it was probably cut. You know, it's unfortunate, but I think there's a lot, not a lot, but there's something to play with there, and there's something to chew on here. Unfortunately, I think that Max was in a situation in which she was surrounded by people that were already doing really good. And then also she was reeling in her head with the whole situation that was going on. And I could tell that she was nervous throughout the entirety of the thing. And I do agree with you, David. I do think that Michelle kind of did shut her down several times, which was unfortunate, because if you are nervous and then the person that you're telling the joke to is kind of shutting you down, that makes it like 10 times worse, and your anxiety gets even worse. So I just cannot imagine being in Max's shoes when you're already full of anxiety and full of stress, and then you're noticing that your jokes are just not landing. And I would think I would have cried on the spot. So Max is a lot stronger than I am in this situation, but I thought she did fine. She wasn't awful, but I just wanted a lot more, and there unfortunately wasn't. But I think that also has to do because it was so short, so we didn't really have time to play with the character, which is unfortunate. But yeah, Max was my number 8.
Yeah, I I agree in the way that Michelle shut her down. When I did the Snatch Game tour with Reese made a point to be like, I am here to make you guys look as good as possible. So if there's anything that I can throw your way that would, that would benefit you, like, we were lucky to have that while we were on tour doing that. And it's kind of those things where I'm now looking at this, and this is when I got booked for the Snatch Game tour. This is what I was fearful that I was going to have. And it kind of happened in our season 2, or at least Hollywood felt after Snatch Game that Rue was not feeling her vibe whatsoever. And it's kind of, it's one of those things where I feel like when Rue liked my Jesus so much that Rue was able to come to me and have a laugh every time she came back to me. But with other characters, if Rue wasn't looking forward to coming to you, she wasn't ready to receive what you were giving. And that's what it felt like. It felt like Michelle kind of put her producer hat on and was like, I'm going to try, you're not doing well, so I'm not going to kind of hand it to you. You're going to have to come clawing for it, which, is a struggle. I think that Elle Woods is a good character, especially if you play up those kind of dumb blonde character, but then just crazy smart at the strangest things, which was kind of those Elle Woods element. I don't know if I got a lot of that in the opportunities, but again, they had 2 questions each, so there wasn't a lot of time to really flesh out a character. And I think she struggled, but it wasn't the worst.
And I will say, I will give Michelle the benefit of the doubt. This is the first Snatch Game she has ever hosted. So I understand, to what you said, Ashley, I understand her, putting on a producer hat and being like, okay, I know you're not doing that well. She probably had an idea that, Max might have been in her head. I don't know how much she had actually seen of what was going on in the workroom prior to. Regardless, I really loved the choice of Elle Woods for Max. And I think a lot of it was there. I think if this had been a standard length Snatch Game, I actually think Max could have turned things around and really developed the character throughout a full, 3, 4, or even 5 questions. I think she could have gotten there. I think Michelle shutting her down and the combination of it being a shorter Snatch Game really stunted what I think could have been really good. She started so strong for me because nobody knows your addictions. Like that, I laughed. That was so funny for me. But I agreed with Michelle 100%. I think she had the character down. I think she just needed more of a point of view. And I wish she had, maybe brought in some of the Legally Blonde isms, or even a little bit more of like the vocal of Elle Woods, I think would have added to the character. But for me, she made me laugh. I actually have Max at number 6. Because I think she did a pretty decent job.
Okay, next up we had Freya, who was Miss Claus. I was impressed with her. I was never picturing her as being a comedy queen, but she really does have good comic timing, and she showed that with this character. I like that she went with a very specific angle for Miss Claus, and she really delivered that, and she found a way to answer questions and make it work for the answer and her character. And sometimes we don't see overlap with that. It's usually one or the other, but she found a great way to overlap that. I think my favorite part was when she said her chimney, she likes to get her chimney blown out. I thought that was really good. So I was very impressed with her. She was actually in my top 3. I put her number 3 for the night.
That's absolutely fair. Yeah, I think that she did a really, really good job. I just, with this character, like we've said a lot of times here, with characters more than like with celebrities, you get a lot to play with, and you just can do whatever you want. And really, like, if you are able to have that characterization and have this like idea really well thought out, it can really work. And I think that Freya really had that. I think she really had the idea down, and she knew what she wanted to do, and she knew how and why and when. And I think it all worked out really well. I really enjoyed, why did he divorce you? Well, he found me rocking around the Christmas tree with some other girls, and I was living. I think she did a really good job. Unfortunately, I do think that there were 3 other people that did better than her, so that's why she's my number 4. But she still did a really good job, and I was impressed.
Yeah, I absolutely adored it, and she did kind of so well that it made me glad that Max didn't do Mrs. Claus, because I feel like with such a strong direction and character as this like old smoker divorcee Mrs. Claus, I don't know whether another Mrs. Claus, like I think Max just would have been kind of drowned out. So I'm kind of glad Max didn't go in that direction, knowing how strong, hindsight 2020. I think that she like walked in with jokes that she could throw in whenever she wanted. Those, they sound like things that she had pre-written, and that's the same thing I did. So I, can't comment on that. But I just think it was really fun. And I think that it's kind of like, a sitcom in the making. I just think it would be like this brilliant character for her to like continue and play with. And it's November, we're heading into December. I hope that she pulls it out and makes some coin doing that. Like, I just think it was really, really smart.
I absolutely agree. Freya, because I know you might be watching this. You better capitalize on the next 2 months, girl. I hope you do, because she, and I don't know what I necessarily was expecting from Freya. This blew me out of the water. I thought this was a very, very strong character. It is clear that she, like you said, Ashley, she prepared. She had a lot of pre-written jokes. She knew, and she had the exact point of view that she wanted to convey, and she did that. Her physical comedy was great too. Even in this photo, her face alone is all you really need to know that she is going to have a successful Snatch Game. In a sea of really great Snatch Game performances for me, I have her ranked at joint 4th, because there are 2 people that I genuinely could not differentiate between in my ranking. So she is joint 4th with someone else that we'll talk about.
Okay. Interesting.
Sorry to screw up your rankings like that, David, but I
fine.
Genuinely could not decide between the 2.
Next up, we have Brenda Brest, and she was Gina Riley. I will say, so my exposure to Kath and Kim is They did an American version, and it did not last long. I think I watched the first episode, so that is all I know of Kath and Kim.
Okay,
it's
fair.
a mother and daughter, right? Kath and Kim, their mother and daughter. Okay, that's about all I know. But so I did not know this character at all that Brenda was doing, but it didn't matter. And that's the best kind of Snatch Game, when I don't know who you are at all, but you still teach me who that character is by your mannerism, by your answer, by your characterization. She nailed it. Like, I thought this was one of the best Snatch Games I've seen in a while. Very impressed with her. And she's so quick-witted. Like, my favorite thing from the whole Snatch Game, like both groups, was one of her like random banter answers. Or when it was after we got the microplastics reference, and she's like, "Oh, I got a microplastic. It's under my bedside table," and I was like, "That's really good."
And it fits so perfectly for the character too. That's the best part. Is you didn't need to know, and actually, I think you'll agree with that too. You didn't need to know this character because Brenda did everything she needed to do to tell you who the character was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she came with props too. Like, she pulled out a seduction CD. I had to look it up. I'm like, because Michelle says that's my CD. I don't know why they blurred it, but yeah, I looked up the CD cover and I'm like, yeah, that's it.
Probably. I guess
it has to be copyright, right? Like,
I can't see another reason why.
But yeah, she nailed it. For me, she was definitely my number one.
Absolutely fair. Yeah, I will now tell you how much I know about this character. Anyways,
yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I am not like in the age group, and let alone in the countries that this would like sell. Because like when this, I am just like barely turning, like I'm about to turn 22, and I'm in Mexico. I don't think I am the people that would be watching.
You're
this
not
normally.
the demographic audience for Kath and Kim.
Absolutely, like I am not the demographic, and like I don't think there's a way in which Kat and Kit would have made it to Mexico. Like, I think that like not really possible. So I was coming into this just like absolutely blind, knew nothing, absolutely nothing about this character. And I ended up loving this character. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was so funny. All of the like it was just so there. I really, really enjoyed when she took out the seduction CD. I was dying. And then the chocolate bar, I also thought it was really funny. Like, no one's buying these. Who are buying these? Let's be for real. I was living for it. And like, it made me understand the character and who she is and like what kind of this TV show is kind of about. And it made me want to watch it. It made me want to go out there and look for it and watch it. So yeah, I think Brenda did a really good job. Unfortunately, since I didn't get a lot of the references, like some things did like go over my head. So that's why she is number 2 for me, but she did a really good job.
Yeah, I absolutely adored Brenda's Gina Riley. Obviously, as someone that is Australian, big Kath and Kim fan, I think I've seen every episode multiple times. Something that those who have not watched Kath and Kim may not know is that like these characters, these specific like Prue and Trude characters that that Brenda is referencing are in the show maybe like 3% of the time. So there's not like a whole chunk of like these comedic references. They probably, I don't think they're even in every episode.
No, I don't think so.
Like the show is Kath, Kim, and Sharon, which is Kim's best friend. That's kind of the general gist of the show. And so to be able to take a character that has so little screen time and be able to play with it and pull in on those things was really smart. I remember when I was preparing for Snatch Game, I wrote down like every single person that had won Snatch Game, why they had won, like what they can be. Like I really like analyzed it to try to make the best out of it. And this was one of those things where she kind of pulled everything that she could at the right time, whilst also having the skill set to be able to make jokes in the moment. Because that microplastic thing obviously could be in no way prepared because you don't know that that someone else is going to make that answer. I think that she did a brilliant job. I think that like also having Kath there, who is someone that has a lot of screen time in the show from the same show, it would have been very easily to kind of being trumped by Jane Turner. But the way that she was able to like take the reins, make it funny, and pull in like just store assistant things that weren't even necessarily like about the character, but she just was like, this is my character's job, so I'm going to do this. And I think that like Max probably could have done that with some lawyer stuff, like, you know, pulling in things that aren't necessarily something that the character's done, but something that the character could do in like a future episode. I just think it was brilliant. And like, not that I have ranked everybody, but she was clearly the number one for me.
Yep.
I absolutely agree. As someone who is, like I said, a newer Kath and Kim fan, I still got a lot of the references that she was making. I think it was a brilliant Snatch Game performance. For me, in my ranking on this current day that is today, I have Brenda at number 3. But that could change literally at any time. Literally at any time. And I watched the Snatch Game 3 times to make sure that my ranking was good because of my top 3, and it was the top 3 of the episode, because Brenda, Vibe, and Mandy all did so incredibly in this Snatch Game that, like I said, my ranking could change on any given day. I think what Brenda did was brilliant here, and having Kath to bounce off of just made everything even better.
Well, next up we had Nikita, and she was Mother Nature. I actually like this idea a lot. I think there's a lot you can do with this character, and you can tell that she had things planned out really well before she got there. The problem is, like, during the walkthrough, we found out that Michelle, she made it pretty clear that she's not going to find pollution humor funny. And I think Michelle really stuck with that during the Snatch Game too. She's the other one that slightly got shut down by Michelle because I don't mind her jokes. I thought her jokes were decent. They weren't like laughed out loud funny like most of the other girls, but she had good ideas here. My biggest thing that kind of distracted me with her was at the end when she had the powder that blew up in her face. And it was all over her eyes. She couldn't open one of her eyes. And I felt like that kind of threw her off because she's just got powder all over her face. And so she can't just act naturally anymore. It just limited her doing that physical humor, which props to her for going for it. It just kind of threw a wrench into everything. But for me, she was my number 7.
You know, Nikita took big swings, and I will appreciate that a lot, that she really tried something. And I really, like, as I said, I really appreciate when queens like go out of their way to swing big. And unfortunately for Nikita, when you swing big and you miss big. And so unfortunately that's what was happening here. I kind of agree with Michelle. Like, I don't find pollution jokes particularly funny, but I thought she did fine with what she had and what she was going for. I kind of just wanted her to like get even more manic or get even angrier. Like, I just don't think it was pushed enough. I wanted her to get like angry, like, why are there microplastics in my food? I don't know. I felt like she just didn't take it far enough. And then when she was trying something, it was never hitting the way that it should. But her jokes were never like unfunny. I was always like slightly chuckling, you know, like I wasn't laughing out loud, but there was a slight chuckle. Some air left my mouth, you know, that type of laugh. Just like, huh.
I've never heard a laugh referred to as some air leaving my mouth.
Like, you know, some air left my mouth and like my vocal cords, you know, vibrated just enough for me to make a sound.
Party.
Just like, huh.
Party.
You know, that kind of laugh. So unfortunately, she was my number 7, but it wasn't awful. And as I said, I really appreciate the big swings that she took here.
Yeah, I think that Mother Nature is a brilliant character because it's similar to my Jesus in that you have so much that you can work with because there's like any amount of nature references, nature jokes. You had so much that you could work with. I don't think she really took all of those. Unfortunately, it does sound like she prepared for pollution humor, and when Michelle kind of swatted that away, she was like, "I'm going to try it anyway." Which that's one way to go about it. Gigi Good did a similar thing with RuPaul being like, "Look, I think it's going to be funny, so I'm going to do it," and it worked for her. I don't think it worked for Nikita. I mean, maybe it would have worked if Michelle did find the pollution humor funny and then laughed and stuff. Look, I think I agree. I think she took a lot of big swings. I think that, you know, I don't know how well they landed. I did find out that the girls were able to watch the other groups do Snatch Game.
Okay.
And Max and Vibe were saying that Nikita just had them all cackling because she was wild, and they cut the vast majority of what she did. But they just had her, like, they were blown away and thought that she did brilliantly. And they cut the vast majority of it. So that's, you know, a shame. That's what happens with Snatch Game. I wish I saw like the fully unedited thing, because for Max and Vibe to say that she did so well, and again they only got 2 questions, it would have been interesting to see all of that. I will say it's interesting. I do think it's interesting that they only got 2 questions, because I believe that Snatch Game and Down Under season 1 was episode 2, which would lead me to think that they also had 9 people. So I think that they could have done it as one group, but they chose to split and just give everybody 2 questions. And I think the same issue, the issue that Max kind of had, is that you didn't really have enough time to flesh things out. I would have loved to have seen what Nikita did. I think she had a brilliant idea. I'm loving this photo, and it looks like she's like Homer Simpson coming out of the hedge, because she very much blends into the background. I thought she was fine.
Yeah, hearing that she did a lot better than what we saw, that upsets me, because I think concept-wise, this was a very strong concept. But I agree with you, Ashley. I think she is someone where I think she could have turned the character around had Snatch Game been longer, honestly. I think her physical comedy was maybe some of the best physical comedy we saw in this Snatch Game. The powder, I think, was a really great idea. I think her mannerisms were really great. I agree with you, David. I wish she would have just gotten angrier and angrier. Or was that someone said it? I don't remember who said it. But Eduardo. I agree with Eduardo then, not David. I wish she had just gotten angrier and angrier and just leaned into that. And if she did and we didn't see it, then I'm mad we didn't see it. But based on what we were shown of Nikita's Snatch Game, I have her at number 8.
Okay, next we have Mandy Moobs as Jane Turner. She's another one that did really well. Like, very distinct character. She had jokes that landed consistently. She had banter with other people, especially Brenda. So she just checked all of the boxes on what makes a successful Snatch Game. For me, the only thing is, I think I had more memorable moments, or at least answers, from 3 other people. But for me, she was a very close number 4. Honestly, it was like, oh, it could have been a top 4 on the stage, because they were all so good. Very clear top 4 for me.
Yeah. I mean, Mandy, as I said, I just did not know this character. And so I came into this kind of like very wary of these characters. And I ended up loving them, both of them. I think the banter between like her and Brenda really, really worked. Unfortunately, I do think that it helped Brenda more than it did for Mandy. Like, I think a lot of the jokes did like end up landing more on Brenda's side than it did for Mandy. And so I think she got slightly overshadowed here, but she got overshadowed by like a super like strong force. So like there's not much that she could have done here. I think she did a really good job. I think she was funny. Like, all of the jokes that she did land were great. And as I said, the banter between her and Brenda was already funny enough. Unfortunately, the banter just made Brenda even funnier and funnier and funnier. So that's why for me, Mandy is number 3, just below Brenda.
Yeah, I think that Mandy did really well. Obviously, there is very big shoes to fill when you are doing a Kath and Kim character in a Down Under. We have seen a Kath before. I think Tia Coffey did Kath in Snatch Game in the UK. And so I believe so. Maybe I'm making it up.
No, because I believe she did Mel B and then did
Emblem.
Taste do? I think Taste maybe did it.
I remember someone did someone did it.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It was UK though. You are
Yeah. And I remember it wasn't like,
I'm gonna do some research and find out.
Yeah. So we have had a Kath before, and I remember a lot of the Australians not feeling like it gave a lot of Kath. and they were very big shoes to fill. But I think that Mandy did really well. Again, I think she was overshadowed by Brenda just, absolutely slaughtering. And I do think that the back and forth was really great. I think that Mandy, again, did one of those really good jobs of taking references directly from the show, but also making things her own. I do know that the shoes that she was wearing were Vibes shoes. So I know that she didn't prepare that joke before she came. But I think she maybe saw them, asked to borrow them, and was like, hey, I have this idea of this joke that I want to do, and I love that. I think that she gave a lot of Kath. It was really fun. But again, I think just Brenda just overshadowed her really well. And I think that maybe Kath would have, if Brenda wasn't there, maybe it would have shone further. But yeah, I think Brenda just really took it out. When you're doing two characters from the same show, you are going to compare them,
Yep.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with everything you all have said. For me, though, I actually did prefer Mandy's performance to Brenda. Mandy was my winner of this Snatch Game. Simply just because I think her impersonation of Kath was so spot on. I think she had the mannerisms, she had the voice. Her opening line, oh, did you get that blouse from Ooh La La? That, immediately I was like, yep, I'm in. Mandy's here. Mandy's going to slay. The Mango Espadrilles joke, knowing now that it wasn't planned, makes me love that even more. Because that was and I think her physical comedy, you can tell she is a huge Kath and Kim fan. She has studied this character. And that for me is why I think Mandy was my winner. Just because she had the mannerisms, she had the jokes, and I really, really enjoyed everything that she did. But I do agree with everything you all said. And I think there were moments where Brenda outshined Mandy. And I think there were also moments where Mandy outshined Brenda. And I think it was a bit more reciprocal. But they both did incredible. And quite honestly, my ideal scenario for this episode would have been both of them winning.
Oh, I hope Lana doesn't hear that.
I know, but
Lana's very against
that is because I just think the two of them together demolished this Snatch Game, and I would have been so happy to see both of them win for these characters. But
I also would have loved a joint win, but with 5.
Fair.
Lastly, we have Lucina, and she is Tabitha Coffee. Another character I don't know, and I don't know if it's... I've said it pretty consistently the first 2 episodes that I actually find Lucina very funny. But there's something about Snatch Game where I'm like, oh, I don't think she'll do well. And I don't know why I underestimated her, because she has been funny, and I thought she was very funny in this as well. She came out right away. I got a strong impression of what this character was, even though I have no idea who they were. She had a very consistent demeanor and way of answering things, and she had some funny jokes too. I think there was a line where she says she's a certified muff diver. That was my favorite line from her. Yeah, I thought she did well. I just think there were a lot of standouts in this, both pairs. So I think that's why she's kind of on the lower end for me. But honestly, her and Lazy Susan are basically interchangeable for me, which I never thought I would say that. I did have her at number 6, but the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, maybe she was number 5 and Lazy Susan was number 6.
Fair. No, I agree with a lot of what you said already. I also did not know this character at all, and so I was really concerned because so far Lucina has not had the best time in the challenges so far. So I was kind of worried just overall when someone's just not doing great in the competition, and then Snatch Game comes, it's like, oh, this might be your time. And I was really happy that this was not the case. Lucina did surprise me. I think she's funny, but I thought that she was more of the kind of funny that Alyssa is, Alyssa Edwards. She's just more naturally funny than she is character funny or acting funny. And so that's why that's what I was expecting. But now I know that she's just genuinely funny overall, and I just adore that. I do think that she got overshadowed by Brenda and Mandy in this situation here. You have two of the strongest like Snatch Game performances in this entire Snatch Game, and so you're gonna get overshadowed, unfortunately. But I thought she had some really good jokes. I did not know this character, but she just all I got from this character is that she's a lesbian, and you know what? That's enough for me. That all of the jokes hit perfectly, and luckily for her, she was a hairdresser, so she could make a lot of scissoring jokes. So they all work perfectly. So she also was my number 6, but she was a very strong number 6 for me. She surprised me, and I think she did a really good job.
Yeah, I agree that Lucina really surprised me. There are queens when they get cast on the show, and like I've known of Lucina before the show, and you watched the first episode, you would not have seen her as someone. Well, maybe I'm making assumptions, but I would not have assumed her as someone doing very well in Snatch Game. But I think that she came in with a good character. I don't know a lot about Tabitha. I have seen her show. So I've watched multiple episodes of her show. It's been a long time since I've done that. Something that I do know about Tabitha in the show is that she like cuts the shit. Like she is very direct, and I don't know whether I got a lot of that like cut the shit kind of stuff from Tabitha, but I think that her way of bringing in the lesbian humor, bringing in like the hairdresser stuff, like that, I think that she just did a really good job with. I just want to say she looks exactly like Tabitha. Like she has the look down. So that really helped in just like being able to visually go, okay, well, yeah, I know exactly who this is. I think she really surprised me. Obviously, she wasn't the best. She had good jokes. I think that, if she just had more of the same kind of jokes, or if Snatch Game went longer, maybe she would have been able to bring more in. I don't know whether they were told that it was only going to be 2 questions, because I know that when I did Snatch Game, we weren't told how many we were going to do. Gotcha. And when I started doing well, I was like, please cut it. Like, I'm doing well. Let's cut. Like, Yeah. And but I know that, like, for example, I walked into Snatch Game expecting that I was going to get an answer incorrect. And to tell RuPaul I forgive her, like I had that reference. But I know that I didn't use it in the first one. I didn't use it in the second one. I got the answer correct, and so if I only had to, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to use that, which is kind of that gift of having more answers. But I think that she did surprisingly well. I enjoyed it. I think she was good.
I have been waiting to talk about Lucina as Tabitha Coffee, because as a huge fan of sheer genius as a child, and growing up watching Tabitha's salon takeover, I have been waiting. Oh, Jesus. I've been waiting for someone to do Tabitha Coffee, because I think she is just such an enigma of a character. And in the hypothetical universe that I end up on Drag Race someday, Tabitha Coffee is actually someone that I would love to impersonate. Just because I have such a reverence for her, and a lot of my comedy is very dry, blunt, and it's very, very similar to Lucina. Lucina is the person I have in joint fourth with Freya, simply because I just couldn't decide between them. But I think Lucina blew any expectations I had of her out of the water. I was like, oh my God, Lucina's going to be safe. And I was so happy about it, because I have really loved her so far this season. I think Tabitha is the perfect choice for her to do as well, because their comedy is very, very similar in that just dry, kind of monotone situation. I think she is the person that could have maximized a longer Snatch Game. And I wish Snatch Game had been longer for a lot of people, but mostly for her. I think she was on a great trajectory. Having the muff jokes, cutting bushes, leaning into this like lesbian angle, I think was really, really great. I was so thrilled to see Lucina do this. And yeah, I was just thrilled. Thank you, Lucina, on behalf of Tabitha Coffee fans. Thank you for doing this character.
I do have our averages, which I like to give out. So we had, on average, Karna was number 9. Then there was a tie for 7th and 8th between Nikita and Max. So maybe we would have had a bottom 3 lip sync. And then 6th was Lazy Susan. Fifth was Lucina. Fourth was Freya. Third was Mandy. Second was Brenda. And first was Vibe. So,
would you look at that?
yep.
Wonderful. Love that. Well, we're on the runway. We get critiques. We get the safe queens. Was there anything major that happened in Untucked? Because I don't remember. I'm not remembering. I don't think so.
This is where we found out about the. Was this where we found out about the anniversary?
No,
this
it
is
was,
where
or was that on the
Max
stage?
talks to every. This was it was on
Yeah.
stage. This is where
Okay,
Max
okay.
is talking to Michelle, and then I think also lets the girls know in Untucked that this is the anniversary, the 2-month anniversary of her mom passing. Like I said earlier, Michelle's warmth and motherly energy in this moment, I couldn't appreciate it more. And I have so much more respect for Michelle than I already did. With how she reacted and how she replied. Like, she went from host/producer to just full-on mother. And was like, are you good? Are you okay to continue? And that is probably the thing I'm going to remember most of Michelle hosting this season, is just this exact interaction, and just beyond the competition, beyond anything, just making sure Max is okay. That I couldn't appreciate that more.
I agree.
Yeah. But let's talk about our results. We end up with the top 3 being Brenda, Mandy, and Vibe. Agreed. Agreed. And the win ends up going to Brenda, which I was watching it. I was a little surprised, but it's so well deserved. I think any combination of Brenda, Mandy, and Vibe could have won, and I would have been thrilled.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, this was who I was hoping would win, so I was very happy when they said it was Brenda. I'm starting to get worried for Vibe, though, because if it becomes your narrative, and she brought it up earlier in the episode that she's always the bridesmaid, never the bride, and she's determined to get that win this episode. And I'm really hoping they don't make that her storyline, because she is somebody, like, she feels like somebody who should have a win by now. I would have given her the win last week. But I really hope they don't keep edging her, because that's cruel. And she's so good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I also would have given Vibe the win last week. I think that I do find, not to harp on last week, but I do find it interesting when the judges decide to include runways in their judging. And I mean, to be fair, Vibe's outfit was not sheer in any capacity. So,
Correct.
If we're factoring them in, then that counts. But yeah, I stand by what I said. I think that Brenda did brilliantly. I wasn't surprised to see her win. And that paired with her runway, I just thought was great, and it made sense.
Yeah. I think given challenge and runway, I think the most satisfaction I would have gotten would have been Brenda and Mandy winning together, because I think both of them absolutely destroyed the challenge, and both of them looked incredible on the runway. So I do wish it had been a double win, but I'm so beyond happy for Brenda, because I'm loving Brenda on this season. And it's a absolutely well-deserved win for sure. And I hope, we talked about them edging Vibe. I'm hoping that they're not going to do the same thing to Mandy too. That's what I'm worried about now too. Because
Mandy is a couturier, so I think the next challenge is a design challenge. So I would not be surprised if.
Mandy is the person I'm going into next week expecting to win. So I'm not as worried. But there's a little bit of worry for both of them, because I am enjoying both of them. But our bottom 3, as it should have been, I will say, is Nikita, Karna, and Max. And they decide to have a 3-way lip sync.
Can I say, before we get into that, when Michelle did the thing RuPaul does, and she gives like the puns explaining like why each of them is there. And the first person she did it to was Max. And like as she started to say it, I'm like, oh, I hope Max doesn't take this like hard, because she's obviously having an emotional moment. And then Max just goes and just like starts laughing.
Yep.
And then all three of them just kind of cracked up at
our
the puns.
bit was my favorite.
Yeah. So Michelle, this is your new thing. You have to make it so funny that you make the bottom people laugh, even though
I will say Max got legally bland, and Kana got a good one, and then Nikita just got, it was unnatural, and I was like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they can't all be winners. Sometimes you flop, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Legally bland
2 out of 3 is not bad for puns from Michelle. I'll take that. I'll take that. But I will say I'm not surprised that it was a 3-way lip sync. I think that may be my optimal outcome, honestly. Because based on challenge and runway, I don't know that I necessarily could have distinguished between, because I think Karna was going to be in the bottom regardless, unfortunately. I don't know that I could have distinguished necessarily between Max and Nikita as far as who I thought could have been safe and who could have been in the bottom. So I'm not mad at this being a 3-way lip sync, especially given the lip sync that we got, which was phenomenal. So I'm not mad at it overall.
I have a theory.
Okay.
I feel like they might have known who they would like to send home. And when there's 3 people in a lip sync, it's a lot easier to control the narrative, because you can cut to whoever you want at any given time. So I felt like this was the best way to really leave it in the producer's hand, and not up to chance.
That makes sense.
I agree with that conspiracy theory. But I was hoping it would be a really good song, and it was a great song, My Delirium by Lady Hawk. I need to go check out her music, because I loved this song. And this lip sync, for a 3-person lip sync, was absolutely incredible.
Yeah. I was terrified. I was like, oh no, this is going to be a bad one. We're going to get overwhelmed. This is going to be like the 6-way lip sync where I'm just looking everywhere and everyone's doing tricks and I don't know where to look and I'm overwhelmed.
And with the stage being so small too, I was like, oh God, they really don't have a whole lot of room to work with.
Yeah, and fully like knowing that Karna and Max were going to lip sync, I was like, they're going to about to like do splits and jumps and do all the things. It's going to get overwhelming. I don't know what's going to happen. And unfortunately, it wasn't really overwhelming. I think I was really able to look at everyone and know what everyone was doing. And so I was able to really enjoy this lip sync. So that's a great thing. That's great for a 3-way lip sync.
Yeah, I know Max mentioned that obviously, I mean, I don't know how much people know, but when you're getting your critiques, you have your microphone on, and then when you're called to be in the bottom, they take you backstage and they take off your microphone and then they send you back out so that if anything happens during lip sync, the microphones don't get damaged. And Max mentioned that she went backstage with the 2 other girls and said, "You bitches better not get in my way," which is very obviously, you can see that kind of with the way that Max performs and the day that Max had. You can see that Max had all to lose. So it was like, I am going to stay here. I am going to put on a fierce show and don't get in my way. And I think she did. Max is renowned in Australia for, I would say, being the best lip syncer that we have in the country. And her skill set and the way that she commands a stage is beyond. And so I was very, very looking forward to seeing this when it was a 3-way lip sync.
I believe that. that there was a level of cohesion that I saw with this lip sync, and knowing that comment from Max, that makes complete sense. I just think all of them really performed to the best of their skill set. And my favorite part of this lip sync is when in the song, in the chorus, when it says, "Stop playing with my delirium," they all stopped. And I loved it. Those are the moments that like the unintentional cohesion of all 3 of them just having that exact same moment. It was almost as good as 2 girls dropping into a split at the same time. Like it's those moments that I absolutely love. And it was phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree. This was a really good lip sync. I will start off by saying I do think Karna was incredibly consistent and did well throughout. But for me, she did lose the lip sync, and it's because I don't think she had like one like oh my gosh moment. And the other two had those moments. Nikita had the moment where she just got down low. She was just this big blob. And then she started just kind of moving across the stage. I'm like, come on, girl, what are you doing? That was so cool to watch. But I do not usually just audibly make a sound while I'm watching Drag Race alone in my room. I gasped when Max did that cartwheel in place into the splits. That defied physics. Like, how did she do that and just stay in the same spot? I was blown away by that. And I imagine, like, it's broken the internet. It's all over Twitter. Yeah. Everybody's talking about this. I imagine the room must have gone crazy when that happened during the lip sync.
Oh my God.
What was it like there at the viewing party?
Well, we know Max's skill set, so Max has done that move in front of Melbourne, in front of Melbourne audiences a lot. Yeah. So we weren't necessarily shocked by it, but more kind of I don't know. It felt warm seeing Max do what Max does best. And I remember telling her before she went on. Obviously, we don't know if she's going to make it to the end. We don't know whether she's going to go home first. Like, you have no idea. And so I was like, if you lip sync, know that this is your time to do the thing that you're known to do. So don't feel bad that you've lip synced, because people then get to see you absolutely kill it. Like there's people like me that are not lip syncers. So the moment that I'm in the bottom, I'm like, well, this is I'm out. But people like Max, when you hear that Max is about to perform, you know that you're in for a show. And I'm really glad that the world has seen that. And I really hope that this kind of catapults Max into like perhaps being a lip sync assassin one day or something. Because I think that like seeing her, or even like just touring with like Work the World or something, and like doing that, bringing that kind of vibe, because she is so incredibly talented.
She deserves that. And I can tell that in one lip sync from her. And I don't wish her to be in the bottom for several episodes this season, but I would like to see her lip sync more. I'll say that much. Yes. For me, I will say, I think I would have kept Max and Karna.
I would have too.
And
I would have too.
I think it's very close. It's very, very close between the three. For me, I think the two most consistent lip sync performances in this episode and in this lip sync were Max and Karna. And that's not to diminish what Nikita did, because I think Nikita did a very good job. And I loved the duck walking moment as a blob. I think that's just really fun. But for me, Karna did just as well as Max, honestly. She had her lip sync down. She had her stunts. She had her funny moment of her flopping like a fish. Like, that was really funny. And ultimately, unfortunately, it was a little bit diminished by Max dropping into a split on the other side of the stage. So obviously they're going to shift right over to there. But I think what Karna did as well was incredible. But based on what you conspiracized, David, I do agree that I think they did want to send Karna home here because both Nikita and Max have more storyline to give. Which is really unfortunate, because Karna has been such a joy to watch on this season, and went out in a great look. We'll talk about it in Look Over Here, but went out in an absolutely incredible look. And just there's a warmth and there's a delightful quality about Karna that I think we're going to miss in the rest of this season. And I'm sad to see her go this soon.
Me too.
R.I.P. Karna, we love you.
Yeah.
And she's been so good to us as a podcast too. So it hurts even more. Like, and I love watching Drag Race and I love having the interactions with all of the queens, obviously. And when a queen has been so like, oh my God, I like so excited for us talking about the season, to see them not do as well as we want them to is heartbreaking. I felt the same way with you, Ashley, because you were very good to us on your season. And then to see you not go to the end of the competition was unfortunate, and I feel that way with Karna too.
Yeah, I think it comes down to one of those, like, they cut a lot of what I said in my last episode, because I told them I was pretty much like, I'm bowing out, like, And I was like, so I think that they did me a favor because I was not in a good headspace when I was leaving. But it's one of those things where if production feels like they're going to get a better storyline from someone else, they will make these decisions and they will twist it to have this outcome. And I just think that Nikita's like storyline of and energy with like vibe and these like things that were happening in the first episode, I think has, you know, more to go television wise. I think Max was not going to go home from this lip sync because you know that would have.
There's no universe they could have spun it where Max could have gone home.
Yeah, but I do think that again with the way that this episode was, I don't think that there's any plan on Max going home. I think unfortunately they just decided that it was Kana's time. It was rough, but I adore her. I think she's brilliant. She's a great lip syncer, and I can't wait to see what more she does after this.
Come on the pod, Karna. We'd love to have you.
Yes.
And we love you dearly. So, and thank you for your support of us. And we are happy to support you for your career. And I hope Karna is someone else that gets a nice boost from the fan base from this season because she is so talented. Yeah. So talented. Yeah. And I don't think that was shown, unfortunately, as much as it could have been. But David, do we have an update as I lose another member of my draft team?
Aren't you so happy?
Yes, but you had somebody in the top.
I don't regret my draft team choices because I love Olivia and I love Karna dearly.
And you had another bottom 3 person too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so in third place is Logan with 24 points. Lana's in second place with 32 points. And I'm still in first place with 44 points.
Wow, what a shock. This is shocking.
I have such a good team. Like, I cannot believe what a good team I got.
Yeah, good for you. I also got a great team that just may not do as well on this season. But and next week is our first design challenge and probably the only design challenge of the season. And I'm very excited to see Mandy do very well next week.
Yeah,
I think she's going to.
And see, Ice is back.
Yay, more Isis!
I'm just like I liked Isis on her season. I think she is such a good judge. Like, I'm blown away by how good she is on a panel. She's like she feels like she's really breaking out of her shell even more now. She's giving a lot of personality, really good feedback. I kind of wish she was just like the regular panelist, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think Kita did great in this episode too, though. I think Kita gave a lot of really great criticism, a lot of really great praise for the girls. But I do agree. I think Isis has been a lovely addition to the panel on this season. So
yeah, I'm very interested to see. I think we saw in the snippet Isis for the walkthrough with Michelle. So I'm very excited to see because like Isis has one of those like design eyes that like she knows when something's going to work and when something's not going to work. And I think all of us on our season went to her at some stage and asked for a piece of advice or something. And so I'm very excited to see what these outfits look like. I don't know if they showed it in the snippet, and I don't know, but I'm excited to see what materials they're working with.
Right.
Did we see that?
I don't think
we
so.
saw Max say, "Oh, that looks like shit," but
and that's
maybe
about it. So
yeah, maybe talking about a fabric that was given to someone, but we don't really know.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to see what those fabrics and what they are, because like we got fucking curtains and bed sheets, and I think season 2 got scraps. So
it was bad. Season 2's was horrible.
Yeah, and I know with season 2, a lot of the girls made things out of plants that died overnight, so they had to redo them. So yeah.
Yeah. I will never forgive this show for what they did to Fofer in that one episode that she got.
Oh Lord.
That neither of them should have gone home that episode. Because I mean Spanky obviously ended up winning the damn season, and Fofer got completely shafted by the fact that she had to make an outfit out of grass.
Yeah.
We did see Isis like really responding strongly to one of the looks on the main stage. So I'm really curious who that is. I guess my bet would be Mandy. But...
my bet's going to be on Mandy.
Yeah, right now Mandy seems like the one to beat for this challenge.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think like, and especially with her runway this week, that she made. I mean, I haven't been an enormous fan of the looks that she wore in episode 1 and episode 2.
Agreed.
But I think that this one was so strong, and so is so the Mandy that like I know is in like the way that she's there's always a camp element to everything that Mandy does, and I think that has shown in the first 2 as well. But this was like kind of that next step level. I know that Licorice All Sorts was not her original idea for what she wanted to do. I can't remember what her original plan was, but I'm very, very glad that she changed to the Licorice All Sorts, because I think that she did a brilliant job. And again, I agree. I think she's the one to beat when it comes to this next challenge. I wouldn't be surprised if she takes it out. But I mean, like, I don't know anything about any of the other girls' abilities when it comes to sewing, so I can't, I don't know.
Yeah. And with that, 2 hours of fun is done talking about a phenomenal episode with a phenomenal guest. Ashley, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to have been a part of this, and I can't wait to see the other people you have on.
I'm excited for it.
I do want to say Lana's very disappointed she couldn't join. She's traveling for a funeral this weekend, so unfortunately she couldn't make it, but she sends her love.
I adore her. I absolutely adore her.
We all do.
We do.
We all do. So
Ashley, she is mother.
Ashley, she is the mother. She would be mad if we called her mother. She is the auntie of this podcast.
She's mother.
Say that. But Ashley, let the people know where to find you if they're not following you already.
You can find me everywhere at Ashley X Madison. Specifically, follow me on TikTok and Instagram, because that's where you'll get the most content from me. I post mostly graphic design things every now and again, but I think they're engaging content and they're fun. And I have the Wicked premiere tonight, so I'll be posting something in regards to that, I'm sure, too. So, and I've made that dress, so I will have a redemption from my design challenge. So if you see come see the dress that I made, because it's a lot better than what I wore in my season.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see it. And all of Ashley's links will be down below in this video. So please, please, please go support her. Go support Ivana as well. Go support all of the people that we're going to have on this season, because they're taking time out of their busy lives to come join us to talk about Drag Race. And I couldn't thank you more, Ashley. So
thank you.
With that being said, thank you for joining us for this episode. Let us know all your thoughts on Snatch Game and this episode down in the comments below. Make sure to go check out our Look Over Here episode, where we're going to talk about some lovely dessert runways. And in the meantime, subscribe, like, and share on the way out. Make sure to check out the description where you can find all of Ashley's links, as well as our audio podcast links, our other YouTube channels, our Patreon, our social medias, and where you can get your merch, including but not limited to cup mug. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. So cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
See ya.